sphere of water about 25 millimeters in diameter.
At one point, I took on the flat earth and I debunked it with working models. I work my world around something that I can prove. Well, earth is round. It's actually, in truth, a little more egg-shaped. However, I'm going to show you something I discovered.
And inside this sphere are a whole bunch of little tiny air bubbles. And we will see what the angular acceleration due to rotation does to these air bubbles as a function of time. What you're observing are the bubbles moving to the center axis of rotation.
So in space, we have a magnet that gathers the matter around it. And in space, it's kind of cold. And that matter, like all comets and such, those space rocks and such, have iron and water in it. Now, the magnet is pretty warm, and it melts the water once it starts to coalesce around it. And this begins.
As a function of time, they will form this rather tightly packed bubble core. These bubbles are kept from coalescing from a small amount of added surfactant to the water.
In other words, it would create a solid tube through here because the bubbles would gather together. They're just bumping off each other, and they have strengthened the skin, the retention of the water, so the bubbles are not coalescing into one.
Here we have a rotating sphere filled with bubbles and tea leaves. And as expected, the bubbles go to the center and the tea leaves go to the outer.
Now I'll be damned if that ain't a working model for fucking Earth. Period. This is a video I've brought up several times. When a magnet has water around it, it will create an egg-shaped void in the frozen water. Again, it collects the matter, melts some water, the fucking water on the out freezes, causes the egg shape. Along with the water comes the rocks and the iron and the dust and everything else, which coalesces, gets compacted over time, and leaves a void inside the planet where the magnet is.
Here you go. I got one for you. I got a few videos. I performed this experiment.
This is an old video, folks. I've shown this before.
Times. Using different configurations, I use both structured water and distilled water. And I like to show you a couple little movie clips that I've made, and also some fascinating images, as I've actually told you throughout.
Again, this is the Sora Apophis, a much more intelligent human being than Lee. And I stopped using him because this man made a few videos talking about how he'd been compromised by Alphabet Soup. And in retrospect of what we saw and continue to see in Lee, this man has more integrity than Lee because at least he admitted it. He took down a bunch of his material, which some of it he's reposted. So, anyways, he uses big words. He tries to impress people with his words instead of trying to explain it to a kindergartner. But it's very important, very good information. And he knows what the hell he's talking about.
Countless, maybe hundreds of videos, the actual phase disparity that sits around a magnet exists at a ratio of 1 to 5, which oddly enough is a perfect proportionality of like a chicken egg. If you actually cut an egg in half, the fat bottom portion will be a volume of roughly 5, and the top pointy end is a value of 1. This is also, too, the reason why seed experimentation with magnetic exposure yields radically different results. I did have you take a look at this one. I've actually got this printed out professionally and hanging in a couple places in my house. You keep getting the exact same results, and I'll show you a movie here really quick. You can actually see this egg shape in the frozen structured water of the distilled water. What I actually have suspended here is a cylinder magnet. It's incredibly powerful in 55 Gauss neodymium iron boron. And here you see the egg shape that exists around it. Now the water inside this egg resists freezing for up to 4+ times as long as the water around it. You're thinking, well, that's just because at the center, it's cold at the outside, and it takes a while for the water to penetrate. Well,
he's going to tell you why.
It's not the case. I've done this experiment many, many times. You'll actually notice it looks like a egg that's actually lifting off the Earth like a spaceship. It actually looks it's kind of beautiful. Looks like it's lifting off. It actually has the structure right at the bottom of the North Pole. And of course, I've flipped the magnet, countless different ways, sideways, north up, north down. So, don't ask me to, do tests by flipping the magnet. I've already done that.
He's already done it.
And you actually see these ethereal banding. Here you can actually see it a little bit better on this image, and I'll show you a video here in just a second. You see this ethereal banding?
You do.
That actually goes right around the plane of inertia. It almost looks like what you would see in a fictional ghost movie, where the ghosts have these ethereal,
or a ferrocell,
like white silk flapping in the wind, the banding around the plane of inertia. And if you actually look at these with the loop, it's really hard to describe. It's actually a fascinating structure that manifests that way. And it's always that way around the plane of inertia. And let me show you this, turn the image around a little bit. Sorry,
repeatable.
Sideways, I should have turned. Also, too, you can actually see the imprint of the egg as it's shrinking. If you will, you can see the bands here. And also, too, this lift-off looking structure at the base of the egg. And here you can really see an enormous amount of this, I call it ethereal banding. But it's the plane of inertia, the magnet. The magnet is right here between these two black bars on the banding.
Feels weird.
Now, I've said it 1,000 times. Given time, truth will shine. The truth is, CERN is not causing Earth to induce heat and energy into her. The reason she's doing that is to power up these red bands here. Those are closed field lines. They're very powerful field lines. They require juice, electric. She is obviously heating the volcanoes as a result. There are massive magnets. The only reason for a magnet to close its field line is to push against another magnet. This is pushing against a magnet. We've been watching this develop the entire time CERN has been shut down. It is just now starting up, and it's not even up to full strength. This whole event began years ago, and CERN's been closed down for 3 years. As we watched it progress, we have got time-stamped proof it's not CERN, and that BP Earthwatch is a liar. He is openly lying to you. When you live in a 3-sun system, how can you prove it? With science. When you see a double rainbow and it's 2 different light spectrums, that's exactly what it is. 2 suns. One of them's red, and it's on the backside of our sun right now, and it's huge. It's darker than ours, so you're not going to see the body of it until it sucks ours dry and black like sackcloth. Then you'll see it. You'll also see the blue one behind you. Blue spectrum, that is, the most common sun on known existence. Ultraviolet, black light, the dark star, Ra. Here's the proof, time-stamped on GOES satellites 1617. We had a CME that blew in a magnet signature that has been carved on every stone across the globe in warning, not worship. And there it went. Fucking Ra was carved all over the globe, people. There's his dingly cobra and hat. This is the magnet signature that blew out in the CME. This isn't guesswork. This is EM, electromagnetic. This is what all evidence is standardized by in court. This is court empirical evidence. This is NASA court empirical evidence with a billion, there it is again, $1 billion fucking magnetometer in space reading the magnet environment. It picked up a magnet signature I recognized. That led to cracking the old language that is global. I have presented it here on this page and my BitChute, more extensively so, because YouTube won't allow some content. This isn't guesswork, folks. I was a fucking senator's investigator. The top investigator. I don't go with guesswork. That's not allowed.